if you're in education, you're in it for the kids, like I said, but also you're probably a lifelong learner. That's probably one of your North Stars. And so it's easy to get stuck in a routine because you know your content, you know your kids, you know what's coming. But don't forget to feed yourself. Don't forget that you are an educator because you like learning. And so you have to make that time and space for yourself so that you are more engaged in your subject when you're back with your students.
Welcome to Oxygen for Educators. I'm one of your hosts, Michelle Kinder, and you'll meet Chris Kent Phelps in just a bit. It's our hope to bring you thought-provoking, unscripted conversations full of actionable ideas to fuel your important work in the world. Thanks for tuning in. This space is for you. Hello, Chris.
Hello, Michelle. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to see you, and I can't wait for people to hear about Heather.
It was fun to see you reconnect with someone from your past.
How great is her hair? Do you know she was wearing headphones?
I can't remember.
She was, but no, you couldn't tell because her hair is so full and gorgeous that it literally covered the headphones.
Okay.
Yes, I've thought about that a lot since our interview. Like, this woman has some good hair.
You know, thank you for opening with such a
profound
comment of depth and significance for the world.
Listen, I feel as strongly about products as I do about the well-being of educators.
All right, well, let's introduce Heather.
All right.
Heather Junker has worked for Independent Schools Association of the Southwest. She refers to it as ISAS for over 20 years, and her role is creating professional learning opportunities for educators, and primarily she serves administrators. And I take it that you've been a speaker at one of her conferences, and my guess is that you were made to feel very special by her, which is how she found her way to the podcast. Is that an accurate guess?
Yeah, she did such a great job. Like, you can really tell she knows what she's doing, and she knows how to get the most pointed content out of presenters that will really serve her audience. And she knows how to deeply care for her audience and meet them where they are. So yeah, I've spoken for her several times, and it's consistently a good experience. And she's just a great human.
Well, and I loved that even just the way you just described how she puts on events. It's an art form, and she has an art background and worked in New York City in the art space, which she'll speak to. And I love that she said in her bio that she and her husband, Walt, are the proud parents of 2 young adults. It's just a different way to think about it. And because we're in that life stage, I was kind of like, oh, that's interesting. And then it's so evident from her interview that she's a very passionate, lifelong learner. And that clearly shows up in her work. So I think people will enjoy listening to her perspective.
You know how, like, is it namaste? That's the what does that stand for? The what in me?
The light in
me
honors the light
in you.
Yeah.
I want to know what the word would be for, like, the nerd in me honors the nerd in you. Nerdiste, or I don't know what it would be, but I feel that way about you, and I feel that way about Heather.
I have a really important question. Did you have a cocktail before you joined today?
I did not.
All right. Well, let's let our listeners meet Heather.
All right. Hi, Heather.
Hey, Michelle.
This is fun being on a podcast with you after so many years of getting to see you off and on and interact with you. I love it.
Well, good. I'm excited to be here. This is a first for me. Never been on a podcast before, so.
Well, we'll get to say we discovered the great Heather, and, you know, we'll like put that, we'll claim that from now on, because I was first exposed to you, I think 2019, 2020 is when we had our very, very first conversation. And then over the years, we've zigged and zagged and gotten to do different projects together. And you've been generous and hired me a few times. And I have always felt connected to you, appreciative of how you approach your job. And I was telling you offline, like, we really try to invite people on who, whatever they're talking about is like almost in their bone marrow. They live it. They're not just like pontificating. And that is so true about you and professional development. And you're so thoughtful about how you support school leaders. So I'm excited that people are going to get to hear about it and learn from you today.
Well, thank you. Well, I have loved working with you as a presenter at my conferences too. As you know, I work with so many different kinds of people. And I love your warmth and your openness to dealing with our people in ways that make sense to them. That's been really useful at our conferences. So thanks.
Well, that's so nice to hear. I really enjoy your group of folks. And also when you were just saying about how many different kinds of people you deal with, I'm always like, what if that person had an anonymous blog? How fun would that be to read? And I was just thinking that about you. Well, Heather, I like to start just giving you an opportunity to tell a little bit about your story so people can kind of know what lens you're speaking from.
Sure. So I started out in college getting an art history degree. And then I went from that to an arts management degree because I knew I wanted to work in museums. And I thought I wanted to be a curator or a registrar or something like that. And I talked with somebody at a graduate school and she was like, "Why are you here?" I said, "What do you mean? I love art. This is what I wanted to." She's like, "No, you really want to be an administrator." I said, "I do?" And she said, "Yes, you need to apply to a different program." So I got my master's in arts management from Carnegie Mellon, which is basically a business degree for nonprofit people. And it was absolutely the right thing to do.
How did she know that? What did she spot?
I do not know. She was just really good at reading people, I guess. And I had done some internships and I was talking with her about those. And I think I was probably focusing on the organizational aspects of the roles more than the, nitty gritty of them. So probably that.
Yeah.
And then I ended up living in New York City for 10 years right after graduate school. And I worked for 3 different arts organizations. I worked for something called Independent Curators International, which does exhibits of contemporary art and sends them around the country. I worked for the Japan Society and for the Asia Society. And at the Japan Society and Asia Society, I was in charge of high-level member events for them. And it was lovely. I enjoyed the work. Then we moved to Texas when we had our son, and no more big museums. And so I was looking for part-time work, and ISAS was hiring a receptionist for 20 hours a week. I was like, perfect. I will do that. And I applied, and the executive director at the time called me and said, "Excuse me, why are you applying for this? You are the director of membership and special events at the Japan Society in New York City. Why do you want to be my receptionist?" I said, "Well, it's a life-work balance thing. I have a 2-year-old, and I want to work and be with him."
Yeah.
And here I am 21 years later, still doing the same work. And I have kept the job because of that life work balance and also the continuing education for myself. I love that I keep getting to learn new things.
Oh, that's so interesting. Okay, so tell people what ISAS stands for.
Sorry, yes. It's the Independent Schools Association of the Southwest, and we are an association that accredits independent private schools in those 6 states. And there's a 10-year accreditation cycle that our schools go through with us. It's a pretty rigorous process. And we have 96 schools in our membership at the moment. Most of them, 2/3 of them are in Texas. But we have also schools in Louisiana, Arizona, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and 1 school in Wichita, Kansas.
Amazing. Okay. Well, I would love to hear more. You said just a tiny bit, but I kind of want to double click on what it is that keeps you passionate after 20 plus years, because that's not that usual anymore.
It is not. I hit my 20-year anniversary last summer and it kind of snuck up on me.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, I've been doing this a really long time. And it did surprise me because you're right. This is not what is the norm for a lot of people now. But I think it is that that flexibility is key for me. And also the continual learning, because the education landscape continues to change and evolve. And my job is to bring professional development to our schools so that they stay on the cutting edge of education and trends. So I have to be aware of what's going on in our country in the education landscape. And I get to talk with all these speakers like you. I get to talk with my colleagues like myself who work for other associations around the country. And so all of those connections are just really important and special. And also, I love people. So it's kind of nice to get to be around people all the time and plan experiences for them. I enjoy that part too.
Yeah, I didn't know your events background when we first interacted, but now that I know that you have that background and I think about how it felt to speak at something you were hosting, I'm like, oh yeah, I get it. I get that she had that expertise. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what helps a professional learning experience actually like really stick for administrators and educators, because there's such a range of what's offered. What have you learned really like creates a shift that goes into someone's practice?
Sure. So yes, we have all kinds of modes of education, right? And the programs that I do are predominantly in-person conferences, and they are between 1 and 3 days, depending. And our members have continued to tell us that having those in-person experiences is really key for them. Online learning is great. There's definitely a time and a place for it. It is helpful if you need something quick and on the go. But coming and being in community with people who do your same job, having those shared conversations during sessions and then also during breaks, coming with your colleagues and coming with more than one person from your school so that you're both hearing the conversation. You can take it back. You can digest it further, talk about it more, and figure out how you want to expand on what you have learned. Those are all definitely key. And then I try and talk with my speakers before conferences and let them know that my people are here for good teaching. They don't want to sit and get session. This is not a 60-minute lecture at my people. That doesn't help them retain. They know that with interacting with their students in school, right? You can't just sit and lecture at somebody and expect them to learn. So I really strongly encourage all of my speakers to give us some talking points that people can share at their tables, get them up and moving, have them do some critical thinking on their own and some reflection in the time that they are there, because all of those best teaching practices work just as well for adults as they do for children. And that's not something that everybody always remembers.
Gosh, so true. And the people in your rooms know what those are and they know when they're missing. So they're very discerning.
They are, and they are not shy to let you know when the experience has not been what they expected.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you balance the self-reflection, group reflection, like digestion, and getting new information? Like when you're building your events, how do you think about that?
So, my speakers always have a block of time, and we sort of talk together about how to best use that, because some presentations do have a lot more information that they need to impart. So it may be predominantly disseminating information to the room. Others are like, we need to teach you guys some tools and some tricks. So we sort of talk about how to craft that time within their time slot for speaking. But then I try and build breaks in between the sessions that are 15 to 30 minutes, depending on the day. And so if it's a 30-minute block between two different topics, that gives you time to sort of decompress, talk with your colleagues about what you just heard, go get a drink, walk around, answer your email, because we know you're going to do that, and then come back and sort of re-engage for the next topic. And I think those extended breaks are really helpful as a conference goer, because when you just go back to back to back with sessions all day long, you're not retaining that information. You're not allowing your brain to have the time to process it. So we can't give you enough time to process all of it, but we try and stretch it a little bit so that you can at least get a little bit of it embedded before you leave.
Yeah. And anyone listening, I mean, the things you've learned can also be applied to their in-service days, the professional development that they bring to their campuses.
Absolutely.
I'm especially struck by your comment about the difference it makes when more than one person from a team comes to one of your trainings. The capacity for them to then think about, how does it apply to our school or our district or our, campus. Have you heard some interesting stories about taking work back that make you go, oh, this is so worth it, what I do?
What I've heard is a little bit more of the solo person at the conference coming up to me and being like, oh, I really wish so-and-so was here because they need this just as much as I do. It would have been great if we could have come as a team. I do hear that quite a bit. And I know budgets are what they are, and that is not always possible for you to bring a team to a conference. I get that. But whenever possible, it is really great. And one of our conferences, well, a couple of them are really super geared for teams. We have our department chairs and academic leaders conference. So that's the head of the English department and the social studies department and the whatever, all coming together. And even though you're all leading different topics, you don't have the same content that you're delivering. Learning all of those leadership techniques that you can put into practice so that you as a school as a whole are continuing to update your best practices is really helpful. And even like if 2 or 3 of you come and get really excited about something, then they take it back and then they talk to their colleagues and like, oh, we learned this and here's some handouts and you should try this. And I do hear people talking about that, taking stuff back. And those toolkits that I ask speakers to help me with, I'm like, give me some handouts, give me some online resources that they can take back. Because I do get a lot of requests afterwards from people saying like, I need the resources, I need to refresh, I need those links.
Which is so great. Like that makes you're not just offering something that's like a diversion or entertaining or just, food for thought. It's like actually influencing how they show up with their colleagues and with kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of just going to feed into that. The content that we deliver is over a wide range of topics and people, and it's kind of hard to keep that fresh as an individual. Like, I don't have all that knowledge in my brain. So what I do for most of my conferences is I pull together a committee of people who work in those positions. And so I'll gather like 8 to 10 people. We'll have an hour on Zoom. And I just ask them to share with me, what are the trends that you're seeing? What are your struggles? What are your successes? What would be helpful for you to learn at the next time you show up at one of my conferences? And have you heard somebody recently in a virtual conference, in an in-person conference, and you're like, oh, more ISAS schools should hear this person. So those are great sessions for me because I just get to soak it all in and take it all. And then I can go out and explore. And if I can't find the exact person or the exact topic, I at least have a direction that I'm going. And I love those conversations.
Well, that's such a great way to tap that resource.
Hi, I'm Katie Worden, producer of Oxygen for Educators. I want to spotlight our sponsor, TackieBox. TackieBox is an elementary school program that pairs innovative content with a tactile tool in daily practice to teach children to self-monitor their own words and actions and their responses to others. It's a proven tool that reduces behavior incidents by 66%. Through daily self-reflection, students build self-awareness, self-regulation, and meaningful connections. TackieBox is a light lift for teachers with a big impact on student well-being. Go to tackiebox.com to learn more and become a TackieBox district.
when I think about 20 years in this work and how much has happened in education just in the last year, 6 months, 2 months, 5 years, like things have just been so rapidly shifting. What are you seeing? Just tell me, like, I feel like you have a unique lens, and I want to like meld minds for a minute and understand what you're seeing.
I guess the thing that is most predominant always is technology. That is really sort of the one beacon that is always on everybody's radar, no matter what the approach. So like right now in this moment, everybody's anti-cell phone. We need to get the cell phones out of the rooms, don't have them with the kids, focus on learning. 5 to 6 years ago, everybody needs a phone. You need to have it with you. We've got to be interactive. We've got to do the pendulums just swing. And and now we've got AI. And so that is dredging up a whole lot of stuff with our schools, best practices in teaching, best practices in research, looking at how you can use technology as a tool versus using it as a cheating mechanism or as to slough off your work or whatever. Using it for time management, which a lot of our administrators are finding is super helpful because lives, because of technology, have gotten just so much busier. Yeah. And so when you can take AI and use it in an advantageous way for time management for yourself and get some of those tasks off your plate, it's just been a really big help to our schools. A constant also, in addition to technology, is strong leadership skills. Every single group is always looking for more information, better ways to be a strong leader. And that doesn't mean being the drill sergeant, right? That means understanding people and relationships and effective communication and figuring out how to navigate all of that with your faculty, with your students, with your parent groups. So yeah, leadership and technology are always on. And unfortunately, we work with schools, which means we work with people. And so legal issues come up too. So we focus a lot on legal stuff in some of our conferences with our higher level administrators and business officers too, because there's just always going to be something.
Yeah. Like, okay, so technology, leadership, and adult drama that requires very special expertise to untangle or stay out of.
Yeah. And then we have, trends that come through in management and in education. And most of the people that I deal with are not classroom teachers. I am really dealing with administrators. So I don't focus a whole lot on the content that is being delivered to our kids. It's more about the environment around the education and how that is changing and supporting students and teachers.
What about working with parents? I feel like the last 5 years, that's been a really hot button and hot topic, and a lot of interest in figuring out how to do it well and to build community that's in a way that's centered around what's actually happening between and among the families that you work with, as opposed to kind of more of the national spin that's getting put on it. What are you hearing from school leaders about working with parents, and what kind of PD helps with that?
Parents are in a unique position in our society in today's world because of the internet, and they have all kinds of information, all kinds of resources at their fingertips that they can access and look at. And it feels like they're an expert on all of these topics because they're able to do all of this research. So our educators have to balance knowing that they've done this research and have this information, and then also looking at best practices in schools and what it really looks like in the situation, right? So it's a seesaw, it's a balance. And honestly, the best thing for our administrators is, like I said, just continue working on your leadership skills and your communication skills, because we're all just people and we all just want to be heard. And so we talk a lot about just letting people be heard, because it's a really anxious time in our world. And there's just a lot going on. And at the heart of it, our parents and our faculty care about the kids.
Right.
That's the baseline. That's where everything starts. That's where all the success is. So we really just try and talk to our administrators about listening and communicating and hearing.
That goes such a long way in sort of pulling people out of that fear-driven, reactive state to just be with someone, seek first to understand, and like you said, look for that lever, that common ground of pulling on the same side of the rope in service of what happens to those young people.
Yeah, because that's why we're here.
That's why we're here. If we lose sight of that, we're in big, big trouble.
Exactly.
Oh, that's good. Okay, let me look at my notes because I wrote some questions for you. Okay, of those changes you've noticed, what has surprised you?
I think the pendulum swing of technology and just sort of we're going to embrace everything and we want it all. And then like, oh, it's all here. We don't really want it anymore. Maybe we didn't really mean what we said.
Yes.
Trying to navigate that and just sort of figure out what to keep and what not to keep. It's been a lot for our schools to deal with, I think.
And everyone has such strong opinions and strong attachments. And
Absolutely.
I like the meta message of that too, of like whatever we think is for sure true today, there's going to be a counterbalance trend 5 minutes from now.
Right.
And to just not get too worked up by any, except for those, like you said, like those core things that are more about like, are we doing good teaching? Are we supporting educators so they have what they need to do what they're doing? And are we leading well? Are we paying attention to not just the content and skills, but the developing of little humans?
Yes, because at the end of the day, most of our schools are college prep, and they are trying to prepare these kids for going on to higher education and to continual learning after they graduate from high school or middle school, wherever your school ends. And so getting kids engaged and wanting to learn and to continue strong learning as they grow is also a challenge, right? And so parents want their kids to know everything, and they want them to be the best at everything. And so having to sort of help guide parents and students to realize you can't be everything to everybody, and that's okay. Everybody can have different lanes. We can all succeed differently and still reach the goal line.
Yeah. And that these are really smart, interesting people doing this work. And the way you just described it is so invitational. Like, it's like, oh, that's a challenge that you could work on your whole career and be really glad you did it. Yeah. I had a thought, I had a question, and it dropped out of my brain as fast as it dropped in, but I really wanted to know. It's really gone.
Well, it'll come back.
It'll come back. It'll either come back or it was terrible, and the powers that be are protecting me from myself. So let me go on then to it's back. It's back. You were right. Over the 20 years, what have you noticed in terms of trends related to morale?
To morale. Can you say more?
Like the morale of the educators, like what's happening in our country, in our world, when morale tends to be higher among the leaders, and when has morale seemed lower? Like, I'm wondering, was it lower during pandemic or after pandemic? Is it lower now that education's kind of caught in a little bit of a political quagmire, or anything pop for you there? Maybe not, but
no, for sure. The pandemic definitely tanked morale super fast, and then it was a challenge, and it was a moment to sort of rethink and look at schools and how can we be doing this differently and better? What do we think we actually need, but maybe we don't, that we can set aside? So it was a really nice moment that way for our schools to kind of examine what they had been doing, what was working and what didn't work. Our schools rallied. I mean, they rallied behind students and families to provide online learning and to really get things back to normal as quickly as possible. So that coming out of that, even though it was super hard work, and nobody's going to lie, that was super hard work.
Yeah.
But coming out of that and realizing we did it was one of those like, oh, okay, yay, we can do hard things, right?
Yeah.
And that's
yeah.
always a really nice moment to realize, even though it was hard, we did it. And then also, I think when our country has sort of a good vibe going on, our schools feed off of that, right? And so I think there have definitely been times when it's been more sort of upbeat and happy and optimistic, depending on what's going on in our country. And I think in this moment, sometimes that's a little bit harder. And also, I think our schools are trying to make life normal for kids and maybe not feed into what's going on in politics as much. Not ignore it, but not feed that, and just try and enjoy childhood and enjoy the learning and focus on sports and go into your favorite teacher's class and those kinds of things.
Those safe containers, which are, I mean, that's such sacred work all the time, but especially when the larger container is a little bit shaky, those people that protect the safe container, that they're the soft place to land, that they can keep that structure and ritual and routine in place. I mean, that's everything when it comes to child development.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wonderful. So when you think about educators who maybe don't have access to the kinds of conferences and events that you're planning, but they're very interested in their own development, what advice would you have for them?
Well, this is one of those great things that came out of the pandemic, right? So we have so much online virtual learning that is available now because we didn't realize how much we could do online and virtually before the pandemic. And now there are so many resources out there. Really, you can, if you want to learn something, you can Google it, you can find a YouTube video, you can find whatever. But also, a lot of associations like ours, and there's a National Association of Independent Schools as well, they routinely create content that is virtual. And so you can access that and do some individual learning on your own. Also through so many of the universities. Like you can go and take an online class for free through so many universities. So if you're an English professor and you really want to drill down on Middlemarch, you can absolutely go and find something on that. Take with it, do what you want. But I think definitely virtual learning.
That's such a good point. Yeah. It's so much more robust now than just a few years ago what you can access.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What advice would you have for people? Like, is there something to kind of like following the energy and the passion and the interest and kind of just letting it be almost playful what they learn about? Or would you argue for like a more structured, strategic plan related to their own professional development, or is it a mix?
I would hope that it's a mix, but I think in the reality of the day-to-day, it's probably that they need to find specific information for their subject that they're trying to teach. Or if they are a manager, like a division head or a department chair or a dean of students, you're going to be looking for content that is going to help you support students. So like raising awareness about mental health, listening to podcasts. Like, that's another great way. So many educators now are making podcasts, and there's great information out there. And you can, again, just do some searching and you can find some really great content. I think in this day and age, that's one of the things that people can really benefit from, is that there is so much information out there. And you're going to be able to find what you need if it's up to you to do it on your own. I'm sorry that it's all on your shoulders, but there's so many resources. So yeah, podcasts and webinars, I think, would be great for educators to keep looking for and finding content. And then also just in your school, in your teams, talk to your colleagues and see, has somebody that you worked with recently watched a great webinar? Did they hear a great podcast? Have they been to a conference and you weren't able to go? It's those interpersonal relationships in your day-to-day too, that may not be formalized learning, but you can absolutely learn and hone skills that way as well. And it doesn't have to just be with somebody in your subject matter either, right? We've learned that over the years. So, I might be an English teacher, but I can talk to the math teacher about different ways that are effective lesson planning or different ways of presenting content to kids. So there's all kinds of ways that you can keep learning on your own.
And I feel like when I look back at times in my life when I felt like less engaged or I was just kind of a dip, very often I wasn't actively engaged in learning something. And then when I turned that switch back on through lots of different ways, like you're saying, taking a course or, a podcast or just 1,000 different ways, but I felt like that button was re-plugged in or whatever the phrase would be, that gave me such a boost to the point where now it's like my top two things are I have to feel like I'm learning something and I have to feel like I'm contributing. And if either of those two atrophy, I'm usually not in my best state.
That's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you like that too personally? Like, are you always chasing something new to learn? And
I have to chase it because it comes to me every day.
It's like your whole job is that.
Yeah. No, but personal interactions are really what keep me energized. And so that's one of the reasons. There are many reasons I love this job, but that's one of them, because I do get to interact with so many people. And when I go to the conferences and there's 80 people in the room and they come up and talk and share and say hi, and I love that. And I love to see the learning. That energizes me. That motivates me to continue to find good content and bring good information to our schools. When I feel that energy in the room of people actually engaged and learning and feeling like it was worth their time to take 2 days away from school, because that's hard.
It's a big deal.
It is, because there's a lot that you miss when you're gone for 2 days to a conference. But if you go away feeling like, okay, that was worth it, that makes me really happy.
Yeah, and I can come back and like show up more potently, more powerfully than had I never gone away.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I bet a lot of school leaders get seduced into thinking, I simply can never get away. Mm-hmm. Do you encounter that?
Absolutely, yeah. And I get it. Like, there is so much pulling on you at all times. And there are absolutely times when you're right, you should not leave, that you need to be where you are and do what you're doing. But there are times when it really is okay to step aside and say, hey, I know there's a lot going on, but I need to go do this so that I come back better and stronger.
That's good advice for all of us. Do you, when you think about the next 20 years of education, do you feel hopeful? Do you feel, terrified? Something in between? All of the above? Like, what's your pulse on how things are and where things are going?
Yes, all of the above. But more hopeful than anything, because I think our human nature is to want to learn and to grow and to evolve and to do better. I don't think that's ever going to change. And so creating environments where we can continue to learn and grow and being adaptable is a little bit easier for some of our schools because they're a contained environment. It's not a big school district with 5,000 kids, right? It's a building or a set of buildings with several hundred kids or 1,000. So you can be a little more nimble, a little more agile with your approaches to education and sort of meet the needs quicker as society evolves and changes. So I do think that that's exciting for our schools in particular.
Mm-hmm. And, there's certain things that I think endure and actually get amplified when things are chaotic in the larger spectrum or sphere or whatever. And community is one of them, which kind of harkens back to your answer about like learning and community being so powerful. And I hold a wish for people listening that if they're feeling at all flat or disengaged, if they hear you talking about your work and what you've learned and walk away going, what do I want to learn about that would like answer a question I have or strengthen my actual work? Also, what do I want to learn about that would sort of infuse my life with energy, whatever that is? My most recent obsession that's non-work related is learning to make candles. But, like that kind of following that energy also, I hope people think about like, what do I need to learn? What do I want to learn? And then who are my people who are also learning the same things or maybe are learning it, but they're a little further down the road? Like if even those things are sticky at the end of this conversation and put people on a path, I'll be so happy. How about you? What do you most want for people from this conversation?
I think realize that if you're in education, you're in it for the kids, like I said, but also you're probably a lifelong learner. That's probably one of your North Stars. And so it's easy to get stuck in a routine because you know your content, you know your kids, you know what's coming. But don't forget to feed yourself. Don't forget that you are an educator because you like learning. And so you have to make that time and space for yourself. Like you said, go make some candles for you. But for you, somebody else, maybe go learn some more about academia and the subject that you're teaching. Or not. Train your brain in another way so that you are more engaged in your subject when you're back with your students. But just don't forget to keep learning on your own because that's really important. That's another reason that I'm hopeful for schools going forward is because we have all of these adults who really just want kids to succeed and just want them to grow, be their best selves, learn and experience our world. And that's what education's about.
Amazing. When we talked about having this conversation, was there anything you wanted to make sure we talked about that we haven't hit on? We sort of touched on it a little bit, but sort of don't stay inside your box, right? The best leaders, the best teachers, the best humans are people that keep looking outside of themselves, keep making connections with other people, and putting others before yourself so that you have that opportunity to learn from other people and engage with other people more fully, I think is just really important. I'm a people person, if you couldn't tell. But that's such good advice. I mean, people can do that on their own terms, even if they're super introverted. That's still such good advice of like, so much of what feels heavy can be transfigured or transmuted by light and air.
Yes.
And if we stay in our own box and sort of like just keep recycling thoughts we've already always thought and people we've always engaged with, and like it's really easy to get that light and air sort of sucked out of the dynamic.
Yeah.
So I mean, that is fantastic advice. In fact, I'm going to like be thinking and auditing my own life based on that after we get off the call. That's great. Thank you. Anything else?
That's all I got, I think, for today, but this has been a lovely conversation.
You're amazing. I really appreciate anyone who's done something for as long as you've done it and really honed it and is still so engaged and like so pushing the limits of their own capacity. Like I'm in awe of that no matter what, but I've had enough experience. Oh, go ahead.
No, I would be remiss if I didn't say that I couldn't do any of what I do if I didn't have a really strong team in supporting me in my job. The people that I work with at ISAS are phenomenal, and they practice that outside the box thinking and supporting one another on a daily basis. And they have taught me so much. And I just didn't want to forget to thank them because it's been a fabulous experience working with all of them.
Oh, I love that. And that is so true among educators. Like if you're looking left and you don't see what Heather just described, look right, look back, look forward, because that kind of person is everywhere in education. And hopefully we can all just keep pulling on the same side of the rope and amplifying our own learning and the learning of the littles and the bigs that are under our care.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you, Heather. This was great. And I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks so much. Take care.
Hey, Chris, welcome back.
Hi. Thank you.
All right. So during the break, Katie had a conversation with ChatGPT and asked what the word would be for the nerd in me honors the nerd in you. And the answer is, drum roll, please.
Namasgeek.
So, Namasgeek, tell me what jumped out.
We just
at
lost our
you.
listeners.
Yes. For the one person who's still with us, thank you.
Thank you.
Chris's mom. Oh, no, wait. She doesn't
She
listen
doesn't
either. Oh, mercy.
Okay, I have an observation to share. I just found Heather very endearing straight from the jump because she had just this glamorous life in New York. And then she just is like, oh yeah, I'll just do, work-life balance. No biggie. Walk away from all that and do this. And it made me think like how grand that then her role turned into something where she could take that gift of hospitality and intentionality and offer it to people who probably don't receive that often.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yes. It's such a good reminder that like when we're going through life, it's not always obvious, but it scaffolds.
And also kick your ego to the curb.
Yeah.
Right? Like that could have been a total missed opportunity if she wasn't willing to just reinvent herself and not have her ego in the middle of the room, which is hard to do.
Yeah. That's very inspirational.
Oh, yay.
Love it. Listen, I have some major work fantasies, like when I'm at Trader Joe's and I'm watching them put stuff on the shelf in a really organized manner. I'm like, I would like that. Or postal carrier when they're like outside.
You want to be a postal carrier? That is like one of my dream jobs. I say that all the time. It just
Why
looks
for
grand.
You? Yeah.
I don't know. You talk to people every day and it's like you have all that time in the car to think and learn and listen, and
you have to be organized.
Oh,
and
I need Katie for that.
There's a beginning and an end, and you either did it or you didn't.
Yeah.
Like there's that's hard to come by in our work where it's like, I did my job, it's done. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I find Heather's endearing is such a good word. Every time I've talked to her, I feel my nervous system settle because of her authenticity and her just commitment to like excellence, but she does it in such a subtle, calm, expert way.
Love that.
Yeah.
Is there anything specific that jumps up for you, having been a speaker at her conferences, that she did that was like really memorable for you? Or is it just her whole way of being in the world?
That's a really good question. Well, one is I could tell she was in relationship with the people there. Like they knew her, she knew them, they trusted her. That was one. She was very respectful of me as a speaker and whatever preferences or expertise I might have, but she didn't shy away from saying, this is what lands with this group and this is what falls flat. So I could really shape my content and my presentation. It like set me up for success. I guess those would be the two things that jump out.
Love that.
And you know, there's so many people who are listening who attend learning experiences and have had a varied, you know, some good, some bad. But I think when they're good, often we don't think about how much intentionality and work someone like Heather put in so that we could have that learning experience. When they're bad, we have lots to say and it's really obvious, but it can be invisible when someone is excellent at their job like that.
Mm-hmm. The other angle that I was thinking about that intentionality through was, what could our listeners learn from her that if they're in the classroom, they could take back to the classroom to create that learning environment for the kids? And just the whole know, sit, and get.
Yeah.
And she made the comment that these teaching practices work just as well for adults as they do for children. And I was like, but are we really doing that for kids? That wasn't my children's experience in public school. And they would get really frustrated by that. And even just watching, you know, Emma day 2 in college, when there's more interaction, it's just a different feeling. And I remember my mom was an art teacher when I was younger, and she would take her class outside for the day, and they would paint outside and but that's no, sit and get. I just thought that was a good reminder. Also, she referenced how in-person experiences are key. And I'm aware that we're sitting here on a screen doing this podcast, but like, there are still some classes where most everything is online, and I know that's necessary and important, but just that personal experience I thought was interesting. And then the third thing was allowing space so that your brain can process what you learned. There's not a lot of that in the world. And it actually kind of reinforced our decision to make a magazine based on this podcast, because the hope would be then our listeners can pick up that book and reflect back and maybe read a nugget and sit and think about it for a while. So anyway, I that was helpful for me to hear it broken down that way, because I don't have any background in creating environments like that. I know you do, but
yeah, and I've made every mistake in the book, including thinking whatever content we had access to was so important that we couldn't spare another second for an additional break or extend a break or whatever. And I learned over time, you know, that's a fool's errand, and she's 100% right. Like, people can only hear a certain amount before they just get flooded, and they need time to let it actually sink in and mean something. And to ping off of your comment about community, it's certainly the content, but I think especially with educational leaders, if you don't have time with other people in other schools or districts that are doing similar jobs, the chance that you are doing unintentional harm goes way up. Like, we need to be able to ping off people that are not in our system and hear how they're thinking, feel connected to them, be able to like let our hair down and be vulnerable. Like, all of that is so enriching, and she creates that environment in her trainings.
love that. Well, that's kind of, you guys closed with talking about her advice was not to stay inside your own box. And that creates the environment where you don't stay in your own box and you can go out and learn from other people who've had similar experiences.
Yeah. After I talked to her, I did what I said I was going to do and really paid attention to, and my primary, it was a kicking and screaming experience because I was like, but I love my box. I've curated my box at this point. But then just the mental exercise of being like, yeah, but if you were out of your box in this way, what would you do different today? So I just did little things like changed my running route or, actually picked up the phone and called someone that I thought about instead of just letting that thought come and go. And just those tiny little ways of getting out of the box infused a lot of energy into the last few days. So I hope people will really take her advice on that.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Can you hear my dog?
Just a little bit.
Okay.
Okay. Another thing I loved was her reminder, and I'd never thought about it this way. We talk a lot about the why for educators is the kid, the child, the students, but I've never thought about, and also a love of learning. Like you became an educator because you're a lifelong learner, and her advice, don't forget to feed yourself. Don't forget you're an educator because you like learning. I just thought that was really special, a special reminder.
I did too. That was a underline, highlight, exclamation point. That's definitely going to hit the magazine. Because, and that's my experience. Like when I underattend to the learner in me, my energy and my whole life dip. So such a good advice from her.
That was actually my next note because you referenced that in your discussion. And so I wanted to ask you, what are some tips for listeners, like some practices and things that you do to stay tapped into that might be helpful to them?
Yeah. That was actually one of the drivers for me in leaving the executive director role because I was so busy that I didn't feel like I was like learning and keeping fresh what I was then saying. I felt like that equation was off. And so when I left, which was 2019, the commitment I made to myself was that I was always going to be enrolled in some course. And I haven't kept that the entire 6 years, but almost. Like I got a little burnout for maybe 6 months or 8 months or something. But other than that, I'm always enrolled in something.
What are you enrolled in right now?
Right now, I'm
Keep it clean, please. Keep it clean.
Oh, please. I'm such a prude. Right now, I'm doing Martha Beck's course on the different compasses. So you basically explore like your mental compass, your emotional compass, your spiritual compass, and it helps you like refine the clues you're getting from those different ways of knowing. And it's a light lift. That particular course is not that expensive. Sometimes I do courses that feel more like an investment where I'm really like trying to gain a credential or trying to like shift into a different workspace. But often it's something like that. It's it's what she said. Like, don't forget that it matters to you to be a lifelong learner and keep that lifeline and that life energy going. But you're that way too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Books, of course, like both of us are always reading way too many books. Podcasts.
Yep. Tap dancing.
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. It's not all intellectual. Some of it's like fun stuff.
Mm-hmm. I think it's important to remember that. And I love that you referenced your candle making.
Yeah. Yep.
Which, I have the proud honor of being the beneficiary of a lot of that candle making.
Yes. You and Katie are on the other end of my manic phases, and you get candles.
I love it. Okay, I was really hoping to talk about the pendulum swinging and the
That was interesting.
issues. It was so interesting, and it's so real to me because in my son's sophomore class this year, phones are gone.
Yeah.
And so just listening to the reaction, I mean, it created a lot of drama.
Yeah.
There's fear around it. And it was interesting because I don't think I've shared this, but my daughter Emma said, and I thought this was so wise. She said, I understand adults are worried that kids are addicted to their phones. We are. We all are. And she said, but we're trying to solve the problem. Adults are trying to solve the problem based on what it was like for them when they were kids, but we're not the same kids because we grew up with phones in our hands. And she said, so it seems to me we should have some younger people helping to make the decisions. And she said, what if we just focused on making school so interesting that we didn't want to be on our phone?
Wow.
Yeah. And so it was just interesting to me that Heather brought that up as the number one thing that came out as, was it surprising?
No, consistent, like
Consistent.
consistent hot topics.
Okay.
It was, not devices, technology, leadership, and then like legal issues or HR issues. Things
I believe
like
you
that.
called it adult drama.
Yes. Yes. I thought that was so fascinating hearing her kind of lay that out. And I remember big time the whole like 1-to-1 iPad frenzy, even for little kids. And then now it's swung the other way. And where will it swing next? And so fascinating.
Yes. What was that? You made a comment. Your meta message that whatever we think is for sure true today, there's going to be a counterbalance trend in 5 minutes, and just don't get too worked up about anything. And I listened to that interview right after I'd listened to Lucas Nelson, who I'm sure if he met me, he would want to marry me, even though he's a lot younger than me, but I'm sure of this. But anyway, Lucas Nelson, Willie Nelson's son, was on Joe Rogan, and he was talking about that he tries to be really politically just knowledgeable, but not let himself stick in any pattern of thought because there's always new information and times change. And I don't know, it resonated with me because of the meta message that you pulled out.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because, I mean, that's so connected to really all of the world religions. They would say that, right? Like equanimity, like just not getting swung too far in any direction. What is that? What does that mean for our mental health? And I think about like the larger theater going on, which is doing real harm. I'm not trying to minimize that, but there's a major investment in us getting very attached to any idea we have. And villainizing anyone who has the opposite idea. So I feel like anything we can do to think about it, like based on Heather's example, like that there's just very few truth with a capital T things that aren't shaped by context and experience, and we don't have to be bossed around by that.
Which is why Lucas wrote the song "Turn Off the News and Build a Garden with Me."
Oh,
if you haven't heard it, you should. It's so grand.
That's a good title. Is that the title, or that's the beginning?
It's a line.
Turn off the news and build a garden with me. Okay.
Yeah,
yes.
It's good. I'll send it to you after this.
Okay.
What else did you have on your list? I feel like I'm kind of monopolizing.
Well, we have a lot of the same ones, so it's perfect. I mean, she went toward a very common theme, which is that notion of at the end of the day, can everyone in the community stay focused on the kids, the parents, the teachers, the administrators? Like, what does it mean to just stay super connected to the fact that we're all invested in the kids?
I had a thought about that and the way that she presented it. I think sometimes it's hard because the parents, well researched, as she mentioned, are coming to the table and they're thinking from an individual lens. They're thinking about their child, who they care, the most in the world about. And then the educators have to think systemically. And so we're looking at it from two different lenses, which creates angst.
Some tension. Yeah. Well, that's a great point.
Well, thank you. And I thought that
nailed it.
Drop the mic. I thought that her suggestion of just focusing on leadership and communication skills, because it's always going to be that way. That's, and it's understandable.
Yeah. And what is the intrapersonal and interpersonal? What's going on in those two spaces that either makes that smoother or worse? There's a lot of levers. I loved how she answered the question about how is she feeling about the next 20 years, and is she hopeful or terrified? And the way she talked about her belief that people lean toward growth and they lean toward learning, and that makes her overall hopeful. That sat in my soul for a little while after the call.
That was the last point I had on my list. Our human nature is to want to learn and to grow and to evolve and do better. And she talked about focusing on creating environments where that's fed, I guess. And so I thought, okay, for listeners, taking that mentality back to the classroom or the campus or the district and thinking about it, are we creating an environment for kids where they have the opportunity to do that?
And adults, right? Yeah. And if you aren't feeling that way, if you're listening and you aren't feeling that way, of course you aren't. So it's like an invitation to enter into that inquiry from a place of self-compassion, because it is a really crazy time right now. And so, I hope nobody hears anything we ever say and turns it against themselves in a weapon kind of way, but instead just hears it as an invitation. And then, just gentle curiosity as to why you might be feeling turned off or dim or uninterested in whatever it is, because this is no joke these days.
And I appreciated how Heather acknowledged that multiple times and talked about the impact on a school when the country feels crazy.
Yeah. Oh, yes. And I loved how she talked about how so many educators see it as their job to protect the innocence and the experience of the kids. And when I was a therapist, I used to talk to families about kid worries and adult worries, and how do you differentiate and how do you free the kids up to just care about kid worries? And it felt like that to me, that's sacred work that teachers and educators do to just protect a kid's right to care most about, is the cafeteria food going to be gross today or not? And, am I going to make the basketball team, or whatever is theirs to care about, and not be so bombarded with the bigger picture.
Which is near impossible to do that in the world today.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, it's a lot harder. Yeah. Now we're both in real time tumbling into deep depression. Just kidding.
Let's go back to Heather's. She's mostly hopeful.
Yes,
she's hopeful.
Let's go back. Okay, here's a fun thing. How much did you love her dear little mini freak out at the end when she worried that she'd forgotten to thank her amazing coworkers? I was like, there's the window into who this woman is, into her soul. It was so sweet.
I love that she did that, especially because she shared openly that she was a little nervous. So I love that she remembered and got to do that, because it'll make her smile and her colleagues smile.
It was so heartfelt and so dear. I loved it. Okay, I'm looking at my stuff. I think we hit on, you and I had a lot of the same. Yeah, I mean, to me, I just want to underscore her last point about getting out of your box and whatever that looks like for you. But I feel like if people walk away thinking, what do I want to learn about? What do I need to learn about? Am I feeding my lifelong learner? And am I auditing what it might look like for me to live out of my box a little here and there, both professionally and personally? If they just played with those key ideas from Heather, that their week would be different, their month would be different, potentially their life would be different.
I love it. That's a great way to end.
Awesome. Well, I'll see you next time. As always, thanks to Katie Warden, our producer. Huge thanks to Heather and to you.
You bet. See you
Bye.
soon. Bye.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Oxygen for Educators. Please like, share, and follow, and if inclined, leave us a 5-star review so that we can keep making content for you. Let us hear from you if you know someone we should interview or a topic we should cover.